Hello everybody. It is that wonderful time of year again. I know I kind of say that for every season. I love most of the seasons, but really this is a great season. One of my favorite things about summer is my garden. I've always had this weird obsession with, growing my own food and having a garden no matter where I was. I used to have these townhouses, and there'd be a little spot in front of my kitchen window outside where I would plant some radishes, and it never really turned out great. But I just always loved having a garden. For most of my gardening obsession, I have been terrible at it. It's really only been the last 4 or 5 years that I've gotten what I would consider decent at gardening. I always loved the idea of having food to eat or growing my own food, but I would never, I would rarely actually eat anything that I grew. Most of it would go to waste. I don't know why, but anyways, in the last 4 or 5 years, I've actually been using what I've been growing and been growing stuff pretty well, actually. The last 2 years, my garden has been limited to a small balcony. And when I actually rented out this place, one of the reasons why I chose this one is because it had a very sunny balcony. Lots of sunlight for lots of growing plants, as you can see. So in 2019 was my first garden in this apartment, and here's some images of that garden. Last year, 2020, was excellent. I did a really good job on that garden. Actually, I'm taking credit when I shouldn't. The sun did a really good job because it was so hot and sunny. My garden grew into a jungle and I loved it. It was amazing. I had a great harvest last year. That was my happy place last summer. One of the things that really was a game changer for me in terms of utilizing my harvest last year was that I really got into the financial independence space and learned about zero waste kitchen stuff, frugal food, and just my preserving of foods got stepped up. And so whatever I was getting from the garden, I could freeze and dry, and just I knew better how to preserve it. So I got a lot of really good use out of my garden harvest last year. So this year, I really want to expand on that and do even better. This year, I actually have some goals. I have 10 goals for my garden this year. Goal number 1, tomatoes. I want to grow and preserve 1 year's worth of tomatoes. Now, this is going to be big because I use tomatoes in so much stuff. I love pasta sauce, pizza sauce, salsa. There's so many soups and just dishes that I need some sort of tomato-based product for, tomato sauce, tomato paste, enchilada sauce, salsa. I use a lot of tomatoes. So if I can grow a 1 year's worth of supply, now that I know more than one way to preserve tomatoes and that I don't need to have a massive bunch in order to preserve it, that I can just preserve them 3 or 4 tomatoes at a time, that's really going to help me maximize the use that I'm getting out of the tomatoes that I can grow on my balcony. Goal number 2, bell peppers. So last year was the first year that I was actually able to grow good-sized bell peppers. And not just that, but I actually grew, harvested, and ate bell peppers that were a color other than green. I had never actually been able to harvest a red or yellow bell pepper before last year. Last year was the first time, so it was very exciting. So my goal number 2 is to grow enough bell peppers to make a big 4-time batch of salsa and have, some more on the side to freeze and use for some other recipes. So there is a pinto bean recipe that I really like that requires red bell peppers. And if I can harvest and freeze enough chopped up red bell peppers to make a year's worth supply of that bean recipe, that would also be excellent. So that's my goal number 2 for the garden this year. Goal number 3, Green beans. I really love green beans. And I've discovered that they freeze very well and they can last quite a while when frozen. So I would like to, this is ambitious. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to reach a year's supply, but I would like to harvest and freeze a year's supply of green beans. Maybe 6 months is a bit of a better goal, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Goal number 4, I want to try my hand at a lemon or lime tree again. I did have one in 2019 that was on sale from a nursery, but it did not survive the winter. I did bring it inside, but it had pests. I didn't take care of it properly, and so it died. But I'd like to try again. So if I can't find a well-priced tree at the nursery, I'll just try growing some from seeds. Goal number 5, I really like pickled beets. So if I can grow enough beets to make 4 or 5 jars of pickled beets, that would be really great. Goal number 6, same thing but with dill pickles. I'd like to make 4 or 5 jars of dill pickles with dill and cucumbers that I grow from my balcony. Goal number 7 is to grow kale, spinach, and bok choy to the point that I don't need to purchase any over the summer. So just a used supply, not like a year's supply, but just a summer supply so that I don't have to purchase them because I do eat quite a bit of those during the summertime. Goal number 8, to grow a 1-year supply of cilantro. I use cilantro stems specifically in my recipe for black beans. So it's like a cilantro black beans. And if I can get enough stems and whatnot to use as ingredients for a 1-year supply of the black beans, that would be great. Goal number 9, that is chamomile and catnip. This one's going to be relatively easy because I do still have some left over from last year. I like to drink chamomile and catnip tea, which is a nice soothing, calming tea, and to grow my own supply of it is actually relatively easy, so that's goal number 9 for this year. And my final goal, goal number 10, is just to get some nice footage, some nice video images of birds and wildlife that tend to hang out in my gardens. Last year I had a lot of house sparrows, and even now I've been getting quite a bit of house sparrows and some chickadees. I had some of that too. Blue jays. I do get blue jays that come to my feeder, so that's going to be really nice I want to get some more footage of them. I also had some orb weaver spiders, and one of them I affectionately named Bob Cross, and it's just fun to have some wildlife in the garden, so I want to get some nice footage, pictures, videos, and whatnot of my garden that I can look back on or use in some videos. So that's goal number 10. So those are my 10 goals for this year's garden. So let's take a look at my progress now in mid-May. I did start my seedlings back in end of February, start of March, but they didn't do that great. I tried acclimatizing them to the outdoors. They did not do well, and I ended up with most of my sprouts being killed off. But anyway, I'll show you what I've got so far. So in terms of tomatoes, I have this one lonely Manitoba sprout left. And over here I have one lonely beefsteak tomato sprout left. This variety was absolutely monstrous last year and sort of spanned all the way up. It was massive. I also have a tiny Tim tomato here. At least I'm hoping it's a tiny Tim because I'm absolutely terrible at labeling my seedlings, so I don't necessarily know for 100% sure which varieties are which. With this tiny Tim tomato, I've planted some cilantro seeds to hopefully get a nice tomato on one side and then cilantro on the other. In terms of my bell peppers, so you see out of this whole plot here, I had put in about 5 sprouts and only 1 actually survived. These I had kept inside in the house and they're doing okay. Same here, there were 5, only 1 survived, and these were in a pellet in the house. Again, I'm not sure which colors are which. I planted green, red, and orange. Orange or yellow, I'm not quite sure, but I don't know, because I don't label them properly, I don't know which colors are which. Up here I've got my chamomile. They sprouted well. They seem to be acclimatizing well as well. And I've got catnip seeds that I've put in. So I like to keep the chamomile in a hanging basket as well as the catnip. The chamomile, because this is then easier to take up and bring into the house and then harvest in the house. Back in 2019, I had them in one of these, and I kept having to pull up the plant to pluck off the flowers, and that was just a really big hassle. So last year I did it this way and it worked really well, so I'm doing it again this year. Catnip, it's just really wiser to keep it away from the cats. In 2019, I'll put in some pictures here. Gur would jump up onto the top here and yeah. So having them hanging up just really helps keep the cats out of it. Now I do keep a special planter just for the cat's catnip, and as you can see, Gur loved to just lay in it. Here I have just some flowers. I believe this is lavender. And then I just planted some random seeds of flowers throughout here. There's also some monster marigolds planted in here and with the peppers, so we'll see how that goes. And we'll just see what pops up. We'll see what grows. I'm excited to see what happens. And then here I've got a sprout of mint because that makes some really good tea. We'll see how much I can grow here from one sprout. Yes, the pigeons are a pain in the butt, but you know, a garden is worth it. And then I've started my cucumbers. They've not sprouted yet, but they are in there. Obviously there's still quite a bit of space in the garden right now, and I do have plans for more things that I'm going to get. So in terms of greenhouse purchases, I was really hoping to grow everything from sprouts, from seeds, but that didn't work very well, so I'm definitely gonna have to go to the greenhouse to get some extra plants. At the greenhouse, I'm probably going to get some pretty flowers for the bees, and I'm just gonna see what grabs my attention. I didn't start any basil or oregano sprouts, which I do usually do, but I was thinking, well, I've already got enough dried supplies, so I don't really need to grow any this year. But also, I really like using, you know, fresh basil and oregano during the summer, so I think I am going to just buy some plants from the nursery or the greenhouse and plant those. I'm also going to see if I can find a well-priced lemon or lime tree as per goal number 4. I also like hot peppers, so we'll see if they have any hot pepper plants. And then other than that, I'm just going to see what grabs my attention. So I'll probably bring you guys along and you can see what I see when I go through the nursery. Oh, and I also have a community garden plot this year, which is very exciting. I have never had that before, but I have a friend who does have several plots at a local community garden, and she was super kind and is letting me use part of one of her plots. So why don't we go take a quick little trip and I'll show you my garden plot. So that's my garden plot from here to the chives that you see there. There's some onions here from last year, which my friend has graciously told me that I can keep and eat if I want. I've got some tobacco here, and then from here to the end, I've got a row of carrots, beets, carrots. And let's just take a little look here and see how it's doing. No sprouts yet, but it was really just a few days ago that I planted, so I'm gonna water it now and then we'll see. What happened here? So that is what I'm using for goal number 5, which is some beets. I have 2 rows of carrots, 2 rows of beets, and a spot with some tobacco. The soil looks really good at the plot, so I'm really hoping that the beets will grow nice and big so that I'll have lots to make my 4 to 5 jars of pickled beets. So that's my 2021 garden intro. Hopefully you'll follow along with me to see how I progress on my goals. I'll try and do some weekly or bi-weekly updates this summer to show you how my garden is developing, how my harvest is going, and yeah, just the fun adventure that is gardening. I did have a little video from last year's garden, so if you want to see that, link is in the description. But for now, that's all, and I will see you in the next video.